Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and today I am joined by youth consultant Connor, as you know him from the Mizzou, as he is a frequent guest on there, I guess we can say at this point, and our friend Braden, and we are going to be reviewing Mizzou's 34-17 win over Abilene Christian today. We're recording this tonight after all the college football festivities are pretty much wrapped up. But honestly, I didn't do a pregame on Abilene Christian because, look, it's ACU, and everyone knew what we were going to say. Oh, this is a great game for Mizzou to, tune some things up, and it's an easy win, blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly what it was. There was some things to like, some things not to like. I'm sure some fans are going to complain that we should have won by more, which, yeah, they kind of have a case to make, but honestly, you're just looking for a win and for no one to get hurt, and maybe some things that you liked from the game. Just one of my initial thoughts is Luther Burton should be returning punts, and that was confirmed today because his first punt return of the year he took to the house. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot to take away from this game. We're going to kind of give our thoughts on it, and then we're just going to talk about the day in college football in general. I figured, but Connor, Braden, whichever one of you wants to go first. You guys were at the game, right? Both of you. So,
yeah.
I mean, tell us about that.
Connor, I'll let you go.
Oh, yeah. Well.
Also, it's Connor's birthday. Happy birthday, Connor.
Yeah. Also, I think it's curious that you introduced me as frequent Mizzou guest, as if I'm not on almost every episode you've done.
I mean, yeah, but youth consultant Connor sounds cooler, and you've never been addressed as youth consultant Connor on the show.
Well, I feel like most people would understand it, but yeah, I'm not new, but the biggest. The biggest positive that we had today, and I mean, you'd think in a 34-17 win you'd have a lot of positives, right? I really didn't feel that way. But the biggest positive for me was, you kind of mentioned it, was Luther Burton returning. And people have been pounding the table with the fact that just get the ball into Three's hands. And I know there was a concern of, oh, we don't want Luther getting injured on punt returns, but it's a way to get the ball in his hands. And that's what you need to do when you have a 5-star athlete. So maybe if he had the ball in his hands when we were playing Kansas State, he could have done something with it. But that was really the only positive. I mean, we saw a couple good plays, but like Brady Cook actually connecting downfield, but overall nothing that really inspires any sort of enthusiasm about this team going forward. Part of the reason why Braden agreed to go to this game was because it looks like one of the last wins on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Braden, your thoughts?
I was not impressed with this team at all today. I think that they looked really bad. If you take away that punt return that Burton had, we go into halftime up 10-3, which is not good whatsoever. That's we were not good on offense. Cook looked okay, but if you look okay versus an FCS team, then you're not an SEC caliber QB. I would have liked to have seen Sam Horn get at least a little bit of playing time. Burton looked good, significantly better than he did last week, where he had some drops. And somebody that I've just been impressed with the entire year has been Lovett. He's looked good in every single game. And the defense this week, they were able to tackle really well and wrap up against La Tech, but I guess it's just something against purple teams that are the Wildcats that we just can't tackle against, because we couldn't tackle today either, and their run game was killing us.
Yeah, so you said a lot of things that I was pretty much going to hit on afterwards. So I was actually talking to a K-State fan on Twitter who I kind of became mutuals with through talking trash on K-State leading up to that game. And he posted Brady Cook's stat line from the day, and he's like, oh, actually, Mizzou, Brady Cook looks pretty solid. I guess he just had a really bad day against us, which I do think is true to an extent. But I was like, I don't know, like even with his stat line, because he threw for like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, had a pretty good completion percentage, but you still just like felt like there was a lot left to be desired with him, even after watching him today. Like, yeah, the deep ball to Lovett was nice, but I mean, besides that, I don't know. I felt like there were some missed throws, and I'm just not overly impressed with Brady Cook. But if he can play like he did today in most games, Mizzou's going to have a much better chance to win. I thought though, so like play calling is a cool buzzword that we like to use when things aren't going well. A lot of times it's easy to blame the play calling, and like I can admit I haven't been happy with Drink as a play caller at times, especially this year. I think it's become really evident. But I thought today play calling was not the issue. I thought Drinkwitz actually did a good job being creative and finding ways to get the ball into Luther Burton and Dominic Lovett's hands, because those are probably your two best playmakers. And you hit the nail on the head on Lovett. I mean, Burton gets all the praise, but Dominic Lovett is having an incredible season so far. He looks extraordinary, but I thought Drinkwitz did a good job getting the ball into those two guys' hands. It's really hard, though, to scheme around this offensive line, because I think that's probably one of the other big talking points coming out of today's game is the offensive line. Just they get pushed around by really mediocre competition. They can't run block. I actually thought they were decent in pass blocking, besides that strip sack that was allowed to happen on Brady Cook. But run blocking, they don't get very much push. Connor Tollison, he clearly is not ready, but unfortunately, Bence Polgar's eligibility getting denied for this year kind of threw a wrench into things, and so now Connor Tollison is forced to start. This offensive line got like 6 holding penalties today, or 5 or 6 holding penalties, and that totally killed some of the drives. Zeke Powell, I think, was responsible for almost all of them. And you heard Drinkwitz say after the game, like, I think we need to go back and reevaluate who our best 5 offensive linemen were. And a lot of people were pissed off by that quote because they were saying things like, oh, you should have that figured out already. But, I mean, that's a scenario where the coach can't win, because if he sticks with the same 5 guys, then he's going to get crap. And if he changes, some of the lineup, then people are going to say, oh, well, clearly he misevaluated the talent. I don't think there's any shame in seeing what is happening in the games and going back to practice and saying, hey, yeah, maybe we need to switch some guys out. So at least he acknowledged that after the game. And then I thought one other positive was, so far through 3 weeks, the defense has not been a fluke. I think the defense is legitimately good. I think that's a takeaway from today. I mean, they picked up a lot of the slack from the offense today, and they were able to create a couple more turnovers. So, I mean, the defense looks good. The tackling could be cleaned up a little bit, but the run defense is much improved this year, clearly. And the depth that they've created in the defensive backfield has definitely shown up. But yeah,
Rankstraw's not good.
Well, he bounced back today, though. I mean, he had a one-handed interception while fighting off a block at the same time. So
Josh,
that was
nice
to
do me
see
a favor.
from him.
From here on out, every episode, I think that you should have your choice of liquor and a shot glass next to you. And every time you say you hit the nail right on the head, you take a shot.
I don't feel like I say it that much.
Every episode I've ever done with you, you've said it at least once. At least.
Did he not hit the nail on the head, though?
No, but I feel like you need to, mix up your analogies.
I need to open my thesaurus.
Yes, you need to open up your vocal playbook.
Speaking of opening up playbooks, I'm just playing. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the play calling? I honestly thought it wasn't bad today.
There was a distinct lack of screens until the second half, which was refreshing. Like, we just didn't call screens in the first half, which was nice.
Screens make me want to kill myself.
Yeah. I mean, overall, like, we were taking shots down the middle of the field, and it didn't really work half the time because Cook just doesn't have a good arm, I guess.
He clearly has the arm strength. Accuracy is another conversation.
Yeah. Something that I think me and Connor can attest to from being there. This was apparently the 4th highest sold out game that Drink has had in his tenure so far. It did not seem like that at all. The La
I
Tech
know.
game was significantly more full than this game was, because the La Tech game, if you wanted to get out at halftime to go to the bathroom, fill up your water, go to the concessions, and when we were in the student section, you couldn't. Like, if you wanted to get out of there, you would not have been able to at halftime. At this game, we were able to get up and go fill up our water bottles midway through the first quarter.
You know, I noticed that because I think it was tweeted out that this was Drink's first game in which over 50,000 fans were in attendance. It didn't seem like that on the broadcast at all, and it seemed rather quiet. Maybe there was 50,000 there at the start of the game, but I imagine a lot of people left throughout, because I mean, even in the third quarter, it seemed like people were leaving early.
Well, like we sat in the student section, and at one point, you know, they have the tarp every time there's a touchdown. And at one point, it felt like we had to take the end of the tarp and run it up to the end ourselves because there wasn't enough people to pull it up there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's
like I literally got on the stairs, grabbed the edge of the tarp, and just ran it up to a group of people that were up there.
That's kind of what you can expect from 11 a.m. kickoff games against an FCS school, though. I mean,
but
at least
the attendance numbers, but just the attendance numbers that were reported on Twitter do not reflect what was actually.
Yeah, I agree. It didn't seem like
because of the robots. You know, everyone's been making a big deal of the food lockers, which I did try this game.
Is that how you got your Fanta?
Yeah, I got the Fanta from the food locker, which, you know, not impressive. There was just a guy who opened the fridge and handed me my Fanta. So thank you, Desiree. You're really upping my experience with that. And then there was the robots that scan your tickets for you, which there's a guy standing right there who tells you, hey, put your phone up there. So I don't know why that's any different than the guy holding a little scanner. So, but yeah, maybe the robots, quote unquote, because that's being generous with the term, scan too many tickets.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Does it seem like that in a situation where the game, like, it's like really busy at halftime and people are trying to get stuff, that the food lockers are a good idea? Like, did it seem like they were any more efficient?
No, because
there was long ass lines.
No. Well, when I got there, I ordered my stuff and then I walked to the front, and it said go to the fridge, and then the guy just opened the door and he said, "Hey, did you get a Fanta?" I'm like, "Yeah," and then he gave it to me. He didn't like ask for my receipt or anything, so like in theory, you could. It just seems like it's really easy for you to sneak past that and just be like, "Oh yeah, I got a Fanta," when you didn't get anything. And honestly, you can order alcohol on there, so I imagine that it's fairly easy for students to get booze through there too.
Yeah, that always happens at the games, though. Like, they're always going to find a way. There's always loopholes to getting stuff like that into the game. Honestly, though, like
something that I just remembered, like when we were walking in, they didn't even have like a metal detector.
Yeah.
Like, I got my phone and wallet out, just getting ready to go through one, and they just didn't have anything. Like, we literally just walked up, scanned our tickets, and we're in.
I'm really worried about somebody bombing Faroe.
Jeez.
You know, that's a big concern.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so back to the game. Obviously, there's not a lot to analyze. There's only so much you can take from a game against an FCS opponent. That said, though, I kind of want to like take the temperature of the program a little bit. So I feel like both you guys kind of know my take. Honestly, like Mizzou fans are still pissed coming off the K-State loss, and I understand why. And they seemed really pissy today, especially on Twitter after the game. Like, oh my gosh, this team is going to go 3-9. But okay, so first of all, I think if you look at the schedule and ask yourself honestly how many wins are left,
4.
I think they should beat Vandy. They should beat New Mexico State. Auburn is definitely a toss-up. They could beat Auburn. I think South Carolina is beatable. That's 4 more wins right there. That would bring this team to 6 wins. So, like, I don't know. People are acting like the season's already a disaster, and I know the K-State game was really bad, but that doesn't mean they're going to play that bad all year long. You know, we saw this team turn it around last year when the defense was one of the worst in the country, and they became bowl eligible. Some things are going to have to improve for that to happen, like the offensive line and Brady Cook becoming better throughout the season. But I don't think Mizzou fans understand, like, because I know there's already talk about Drinkwitz getting fired, which is ridiculous to me, because I don't think Mizzou fans understand the implications of firing a coach every 3 to 4 years, which is the pattern that we would be on if they moved on from Drinkwitz. And like, Mizzou can't afford for Drinkwitz not to be good. And I'm not saying you can't be critical, because fans have every right to be critical so far. But just don't be a lame duck fan and be like, oh, we need to fire Drinkwitz. Like, oh, he's on his way out. Like, the guy is recruiting better than any coach has in Mizzou history. He's only got a couple classes in here. He hasn't even gotten a chance to show us his quarterback yet, Sam Horn, who I imagine will probably be in line to start next year. You know, I still am optimistic about Drinkwitz. I think if they're, you know, this level bad going into next year, then it can become a conversation. But I think you at least have to give him a full cycle, and I think he's gonna get a full cycle before any judgment is made by like the athletic department or Desiree Reed-Francois. Like, I think he's going to get at least 4 years. Odom got at least 4 years, and at least Drinkwitz has a future to sell the fan base on. Like, that was the thing with Odom, is like, not only did they not show any progress, but there was no, hey, but at least we have this and that. Like, Barry Odom didn't have a Sam Horn and a Luther Burton and another year of Dominic Lovett and all that to sell the fan base on. Like, I think in due time, Drink will have a winning program here. Like, Mark Stoops didn't make Kentucky into what they were overnight. I mean, it took him like 5 years to even have a winning season there. And people forget that the talent cupboard was left pretty bare for Drinkwitz when he took over compared to the other SEC jobs. And I know some people see that as less of an excuse now, given that the transfer portal is out there. And that's where, I mean, I will agree with people when they criticize Drink and his utilization of the transfer portal, because yeah, they probably should have addressed offensive line. Yeah, it's kind of a failure that he didn't get a quarterback in the transfer portal, but I think Connor Bazelak and his regression really threw a wrench into things. Otherwise, Connor Bazelak probably would still be the starter today. Yeah, I'm still optimistic about Drinkwitz, really. I mean, I think if you give him another year, maybe he improves the offensive line through the transfer portal. He'll have another class of recruits in here. I think we'll start to see progress, and we're at least going to get to see that, because he's going to get a chance to show us Sam Horn and, you know, his new look team next year. And if they're good, he's going to get a pass. If not, then people are going to start to have questions. And like I said, then I'll be willing to listen to the argument, oh, Drink needs to go. But I think right now, like, it's too early for that crap. I mean, we're in year 3 or week 3 of year 3. Like, that's way too early to be talking about anything like that. I mean, so like, I was talking to one of my friends today about, you know, he's like, oh, who's your team again? And I'm like,
you don't
Missouri.
have any other friends.
As I was saying, I was talking to one of my other friends here today, and he was like, oh, what's your team again? And I'm like, oh, Missouri. And I basically talked about, you know, what's going on and how, oh, fans already want to run Barry Odom out of town. And he's a Michigan fan. He was talking about how, like, oh, Michigan fans, they wanted Jim Harbaugh's head on a platter. And then he finally broke through and beat Ohio State, and they outright won the Big Ten. And like, you have to give a coach time to actually build a program and instill a culture. And if you fire Drinkwitz after year 3, you can't say that you actually gave him a chance, really, because honestly, I think that Drinkwitz overachieved in year 1 with that all SEC schedule when he went 5-5. And because of that, fans then set unrealistic expectations for year 2 and year 3, when in reality, it was always probably going to be like this, and he was going to need time to rebuild this roster. And, you know, you can see there's still a long way to go, but I trust Drink to get us there.
Okay, devil's advocate. Why did we hire Drinkwitz? We hired Drinkwitz to be this young offensive guru, right?
Yeah.
kind of the same reason why the Rams hired Sean McVay, for example. And he's not been that at all. He has not been what was advertised in the slightest. His offenses have been anemic. I don't care what you say about quarterback play and about how Basilak regressing and all that. As you said, the transfer portal is out there. We have seen so many quarterbacks transfer over the past couple years that we could have gotten. Names like Jackson Dart, JT Daniels immediately come to mind. And we swung and missed on all of them that we tried to recruit. That's a failure
and that's
on the
no, and I agree with that. That's one of the criticisms I totally agree on with Drink. He failed at not getting a QB in the transfer portal.
No. I'm going to keep going. So yeah, he very clearly struck out. So I don't know if you can sit here and really say that the talent gap is on him, or is on Odom, given the fact that he could have addressed that through the transfer portal. And I think that as of right now, he is extremely comparable to Jeremy Pruitt, because Tennessee was talking about how they were going to be back because look at all these shiny stars that Jeremy Pruitt was bringing in. But in reality, Jeremy Pruitt didn't piss a drop. Like, Jeremy Pruitt as a coach didn't win anything, but he was getting recruits. Now, granted, he was getting the recruits by paying them in McDonald's money, but the point is he was recruiting well and nothing was coming of it. And, like, who cares how well you recruit and how many stars are next to your players' names if you're not winning? There are programs that regularly get like 3-star guys and turn them into first-round draft picks. Gary Pinkel, as flawed as he was, didn't really ever get any high-caliber guys. He developed these low-caliber guys into being good players. So I really don't care about the recruiting ranking if it doesn't translate on the field. And that's what we're seeing with Drinkwitz right now. And
But I don't.
think, I'm almost done. I think he has a lot of the same issues as Jimbo Fisher, where I think they're both good CEO coaches, but they are so damn stubborn that they won't give up play calling duties. That's the reason that A&M lost to Appalachian State. It's because Jimbo is still out there using the 2014 playbook, and he's surprised when it doesn't work. Drinkwitz is continuously going out there, running screen passes and going east to west and just doing all this cutesy crap. And he's just not a good play caller. Like, you can sit there and like Eli Drinkwitz, the leader of men, and like Eli Drinkwitz, the recruiter, because I do. But Eli Drinkwitz, the play caller, has been a failure on every level. And maybe we shouldn't fire Drinkwitz, but we absolutely need an offensive coordinator. But he is too egotistical to admit that he's wrong and that he's not good at calling plays, because that's what he came here to do. And he's failed at every level of calling plays. So yeah, maybe firing Drinkwitz isn't in the cards, but we need an offensive coordinator. And if he refuses to hire an offensive coordinator, then yes, we should fire him, because his offensive play calling is going to hold this team back no matter what talent we have.
Okay, so I'll offer a quick rebuttal to that, and then I'll hand it off to Braden and see what he thinks. So, like, you mentioned the Jeremy Pruitt comparison, and it's fair in some ways, but, like, okay, you say he brings in all these shiny stars, and it's not translating to the field. But, like, Drinkwitz, even most of his recruits at this point are still underclassmen. So it's not even like he's brought all of his recruits on the field and then they're failing. Like, we haven't seen most of them yet. And, like, there's reason to believe that if you allow him to keep hauling in talent, we'll start to see progress, because, like, I can name some of his recruits now that, like, we're seeing some of the pieces start to emerge. And if we can get enough of them, I think this team can take a step forward. Like Dalen Carnell, he's been great. The second-year cornerback, he is a great tackler. He's blown up some plays. He blew up a couple of plays today. Luther Burton, obviously. Dominic Lovett is another one. And, like, I trust him to get more of those guys, enough to where we can see some progress with this team. And, yeah, I will agree. Drinkwitz, as a play caller, he's been very underwhelming. But I've said this before, and I will say it again. He is a very young coach. We knew we were taking a shot in the dark with him when we hired him from App State. And he only had 1 year of head coaching experience before coming here. And the reason I say that is because he's still learning as he goes. Like, he's a young coach, and we've heard him admit before, like, yeah, my playing calling sucked today. Like, he's a coach to come out and admit that, like, I'm not doing a great job. I'm letting the team down. So he's at least able to admit that. We'll see if he's able to admit that he needs to swallow his pride and hire an OC, because I'm open to that. Yes. but I still think that a lot of these things that you're saying about Drinkwitz, like some of those conclusions are premature because he just hasn't had that much time here yet. And again, Mizzou is not a school that can afford to, they can't afford for Drinkwitz to not work. Like this Drinkwitz thing has to work or else you're just going to continue setting the program back. And again, as to your Jeremy Pruitt comparison, like, okay, but really the real reason he got fired is because he had off the field stuff going on along with the fact that he was underperforming. So,
He
as
also
far as we know,
sucked,
yeah, but
which was my main point.
As far as we know, Drinkwitz doesn't have any off the field stuff going on. Now, if that happens, then maybe that'll speed this process up a little bit. But I don't know, I think Drinkwitz needs time. I think the fan base is being a little harsh. Again, they have a right to be angry. Like, I get it. I know you want to be better than this in year 3. But, 3 years ago, I don't think people thought this program was going anywhere either. So, the least you can do is let Drinkwitz bring in more talent, bring in more of his own guys, and just see where it goes. Like, okay, let's say we keep him a couple more years and he never goes better than 500. Well, at least for the next coach, he'll be leaving the roster in a much better position talent-wise than, when he got here. So, I'm willing to ride this out with him. And we'll see what happens. But I don't know, Braden, what are your thoughts?
Hold on. I'm going to ask you one thing, and then we can move on.
Okay.
On the field, you can't say anything recruiting related. Purely on the field, what has improved from Barry Odom to Drinkwitz?
I would say the defense has improved. The defense
ironic, ain't it?
Yeah, the defense has improved. Especially, and the talent on the roster has improved. We've seen flashes.
That's recruiting.
No, not necessarily, because we've seen the talent on the field flash more than a lot of the players that Barry Odom had when he was here. Like Luther Burton, that's a reason to be optimistic. As I was saying earlier, like that's the future that Drink is selling the fan base on. We've seen Luther Burton do good things already. And I know Drinkwitz is frustrating as a play caller, but like he still had, like even today, like I thought he did a fine job. There's other times where, he makes me want to pull my hair out. And part of it, I think, is because we don't have the personnel to do some of the stuff that he wants to do. Granted, some of the slow developing East and West stuff does, like some of that stuff is stuff that's not even going to work no matter the talent that you have, because you can't rely on that type of play calling all the time, especially in conference play. But like some of these things that I see, like, okay, last week against K-State, when we threw 4 interceptions and 5 passing plays, like at that point, that's not Drink's play calling. That's your you don't have a quarterback that can throw the damn ball. Now, that comes back to Drink because, people would argue that year 3, you should have the quarterback situation figured out by now. But that's why I'm still willing to give him time so we can see what Sam Horn can do in that team in the future. But Braden?
All right. So to answer Connor's question that he just had, if you put Drew Lock from his 4 years at Mizzou on this team right now, I firmly believe you probably have the second best team in the SEC East. We're not better than Georgia, but I genuinely think that if you put Drew Lock under Barry Odom on this team, it is better in every single way. And Drew bailed out Odom on offense in so many ways because we had shit receivers. We had an average to subpar O-line, and our run game had Roundtree, and that was really it.
Underclassman Beatty, who didn't get very many carries. And I'll add to that too, like Barry Odom, he inherited Drew Lock. Barry Odom didn't even recruit Drew Lock. That was a Pinkel guy. So like without Drew Lock, Barry may not even have made it as far as he did.
And then my opinion on Drink is somewhere in the middle of both of you. If Sam Horn doesn't work out, Drink needs to go.
Yeah. And that I can agree
Sam
with.
Horn is his last shot. Like if Sam Horn doesn't start next year and isn't good next year, Drink's gone. Like you had a chance to get JT Daniels. You had a chance to get multiple players in the transfer portal. And it seemed like, because at the spring game, I think when JT came in, it's just like he thought that if he went to Mizzou, he would just have the job. But Drink was just like, no, you wouldn't. Like, I'm going to make you compete with Brady.
Yes.
And JT was very taken back by that. And
Yeah, I
Sounds
don't
like
think he
Lonzo.
promised. I don't think he promised a starting job to any of these guys, which is why a
Yeah.
lot of them went to other places. And also, I'll add one more thing to answer Connor's question: what has improved on the field? An area that I think has improved that we were forgetting is Drink is much, much better at winning close games than Odom did. Remember how hyped we were when they beat LSU in year one and they finally beat Kentucky, something Barry Odom never did? Like, those were close games that we won that, like, Mizzou just didn't win. Florida last year in overtime. Those were games that in the past, like, Odom had never won. Those were games that in Mizzou's history, Mizzou never seemed to have won. Arkansas in 2020 and the shootout. I mean, that's something that, you can point to that we've improved on. We're better at winning close games with Drink. There's been low points in the Drink era, sure, but we've definitely competed. And I don't think you can say at any point in the Drinkwitz area, like, the team has quit on him. We saw in the Barry Odom era many times that team roll over and die, and they quit on Barry Odom. I don't think you can say that about Drink's team so far.
Mississippi State from
Yeah,
year
I was
one.
going to say that.
They were
gassed,
gassed, they were gassed at the end of the year, and they still played hard, and they put some of the second and third stringers in, and that's when Sean Robinson earned a starting spot, and like that, yeah, that was one game, but like it's not like they quit on him for the year, and then they still played a bowl game, or they were going to play in a bowl game. They were bowl eligible, so it's like, yeah,
Man,
I don't
can
think.
you imagine if Mizzou played Iowa? What a
bummer.
I'm glad that game got canceled, especially because Larry Roundtree opted out of that game too, I'm pretty sure, and Nick Bolton.
One thing that I also wanted to mention, like, I like seeing Drink get 4 stars. He's gotten Luther as a 5-star. He's getting all these like big guys, big name recruits,
big local guys too.
Yeah, he's locking down Missouri, and that's a good thing for, even if we do fire Drink, for whoever comes in next. That's a really good thing.
I made that point too.
One thing that I missed is Nick Bolton, when he came into Mizzou, like when Barry recruited him, I think he was a 2-star.
Yeah.
He was a 2-star. He was undersized from Texas, and Barry saw him and he was just like, I'm going to make you a really good player. And he did. And now Bolton is doing his thing for the Chiefs. So I feel like Mizzou's, like, we've lost that a lot. So
you mean just like finding under the radar guys and Drink turning them into something?
Mm-hmm. Drink's just going for guys that he just hopes that he doesn't have to develop. And he's hoping that they're already at their max and pro potential. Like, I don't think that he is really looking to develop people. He's looking to get just big name guys and try and make Mizzou like Georgia and Alabama, who just get nothing but 4 and 5 stars.
But, well, here's the thing with that. He hasn't been here long enough, I feel like, to find that guy that he can pull up and be like, oh, I developed this guy. Because, he's only in year 3. Like, he hasn't been here that long, which is kind of my point for a lot of these things, is he hasn't been here that long. Like, he needs time. But as you said, he's locking down the borders. He's recruiting way better. And I will say that if we ever have to move on from Drink, we're going to be in a lot better position talent-wise. And also, it's going to prove – I think it'll make Missouri a better job, because I think a lot of concern about coaches that were interested in the Missouri job is, it's really hard to recruit at Missouri. Well, Drink has proven now, no, you can recruit here. You just got to bring in the right guy. So that's at least one thing that, I'm positive about, even if Drink doesn't work out.
So you want to make the job easier for Dan Mullen in 2 years?
All right, so
Bobby Petrino.
Let's just, Connor, I'll just let you have the floor so you can make your case to the fan base on Dan Mullen. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't really know. I don't really think there's too much to say, but I feel like Dan Mullen would be a good hire for this program. I don't feel like Dan Mullen's going to come in and be like our Saban or give us the effect that Orgeron had in LSU or anything like that. He's no Urban Meyer or anything, but I do like the spot that he left Florida in, and he really turned Mississippi State around from being a total tire fire. Mike Leach, I really respect Mike Leach too, and I wish Mizzou got him instead of Barry Odom because I love Mike Leach. But Mississippi State really got turned around with both those coaches. But Dan Mullen proved that he could win at Mississippi State, and he continued being a pretty solid coach at Florida, winning the Orange Bowl, Peach Bowl, St. Petersburg Bowl, Belk Bowl, Orange Bowl, Liberty Bowl, Music City Bowl, Gator Bowl. Like, he's winning these bowl games. And so, no, he's not going to win the SEC. He's not going to win championships, but I think with the fact that he's able to win bowl games at Mississippi State, and, he's not even going to win 10 games every year. Occasionally, he'll only win 7. But like occasionally he'll jump up and get those 9-10 win seasons. That's something we just haven't seen at Mizzou. And if he can do that at Mississippi State, why can't he do that at Mizzou? And I saw what he did with Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts at Florida. I think he would do a lot of good with Luther Burton. So I don't feel like he's going to win a national championship or anything, but I feel like whoever took over for Dan Mullen after he got fired at Mizzou would be in a really good position. Like, I think Billy Napier is in a really good position at Florida right now, and maybe Billy Napier ends up contending with Florida. But I just feel like bringing in Dan Mullen would put us on the right track, whereas right now I feel like with Drink, we're just spinning our tires. So I feel like Dan Mullen is a real program builder that would come in and improve this team a lot. And I think you could sell him on the job too. Like, I feel like there's better candidates. Like, the candidate for everything that everyone brings up is Urban Meyer. We can't afford that. But I feel like there's a genuine pitch to Dan Mullen here. He's already coached at 2 SEC stops, and he'd get the opportunity to get revenge on Florida every year. I just feel like it makes sense for him to want to come coach here because there's no way he doesn't want to coach again. So that's just the guy I want. There might be better options that we can't afford. Like, I'd love Ed Orgeron, but to me, Dan Mullen just seems like the best of every world possible to get this program in the right direction.
I do think the candidate pool would be much bigger for Mizzou if they have to move on from Drink for the reasons I already stated, which is he's shown that you can recruit here. The talent would be better.
And I feel like Dan Mullen would recruit better, win more, and then when we fire Dan Mullen in 5-7 years down the line, we can get an even better recruit. Like, maybe Dabo gets fired by then or something like that. But the point is, I feel like...
Did you just say Dabo to Mizzou?
Maybe 7 years down the line.
No. Never.
Why not? Because we're about to talk about Bobby Petrino to Mizzou.
Hell yeah.
Are we done talking about Mizzou? Are we done? Are we ready to talk about this Mo State Arkansas game that we just watched?
Yes.
Piggies are frauds.
Okay, well, hold on. Before that, how important is this Auburn game to you guys for the season?
For the season?
It's the first SEC game, so it sets the tone for the rest of the year.
I think it makes or breaks the season.
Yeah, like if we go in there and win, like, I genuinely think that, like, we could maybe beat Kentucky or Florida. Like, if we can go to Auburn,
they would have to show vast improvements, but I do think it would show, hey, they're going to be Vandy. They should probably beat South Carolina because Auburn is terrible this year. They got ran over by Penn State today. They're not a very good team. Their offense is horrible, as is Mizzou's. So I think it'll be a defensive slugfest, but it's definitely a very important game because I think it's one of the more winnable games in the schedule, and Drinkwitz in this program need as many wins as they can get right now.
It's about to be a Big Ten game.
Also, I think it's a game where Brian Harsin could potentially get fired if Drink wins.
I think Brian Harsin could get fired if he wins every game. Like, they hate him there. It's an absolute dumpster fire in Auburn. And I think a lot of Auburn fans would like Missouri to win just so they have an excuse to fire Harsin.
And then Missouri fans, they would get their dream scenario because they've been so afraid that Auburn is going to come and hire away Drink. Auburn fires Harsin and they hire Drinkaway. And Mizzou fans will be happy, I'm sure.
I could see Auburn being the team to bring Urban back into college football.
Nebraska.
I would love him going to Nebraska. But I don't know if they'll do it.
Well, apparently they've reached out to him. So honestly, I want to see Nebraska, and I guess Auburn, they could do this too if they do move on from Harsin. I want to see Nebraska hire Lance Leipold and take away the best thing that's ever happened to KU football, because I think that would be absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really sure what's going on in Kansas. I haven't watched one of their games since last year, so
Well,
I
might
don't know.
be going to Lawrence this weekend.
Yeah, if game day goes to Lawrence, we might go. Probably going to. And that would mean we miss the Mizzou Auburn game. But really, if we lose to Auburn, then who are we going to beat? You know. So this is Vandy. Obviously, is the layup, even though they've seemingly been better this year. The expectation is you need to beat Vanderbilt. You know, that's just bar line. You need to win that game.
They almost lost to Northern Illinois today.
I mean, but Kentucky almost lost to Miami of Ohio and then went out and beat Florida. So
college football has been very weird this year.
We say this every year. It's just a weird sport. But yeah, I feel like if we beat Auburn, then that will revitalize the fan base, because even though Auburn sucks, it's kind of like, okay, the year we beat LSU.
That's what I was about to say.
LSU wasn't great, but the fact that we beat LSU was a big deal. And it's the same thing here. Like Auburn is like one of the, not necessarily blue bloods of college football, but they're definitely like one of the SEC blue bloods. They're kind of the little like second tier. And if we beat them, that's going to get a lot of people excited, even if they suck, right?
It's the name on the front of the jersey.
Yeah, but the point is, if we beat them, season's on. If we lose to them, I don't think we beat anyone other than New Mexico State to finish the year out. So season's on the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big game. It's an important game. Speaking of important games, though, let's talk about Mo State versus Arkansas that just happened today. So, you know, I run a website called Show Me Football, and it's called Show Me Football because it's, you know, the major football teams in the state of Missouri. And I don't talk about them much, but, given it's an occasion, we're going to talk about Missouri State because they just put on a hell of a game versus Arkansas. Now, I'm still pissed about it because they lost, and I think they really should have won. But in Bobby Petrino's return to Fayetteville, that team gave Arkansas, number 10 ranked Arkansas, a run for its money. And honestly, Arkansas is ranked number 10, okay? I don't think they're a top 10 team. Honestly, I think they're extremely overrated. And if we look at what they've done so far, they really should have lost to Cincinnati. I mean, they did not play well versus Cincinnati, but Cincinnati having a horrible quarterback really changed that game. They beat South Carolina. Okay, meh. South Carolina's meh. And then Missouri State almost pulled off one of the biggest upsets in college football, maybe ever. Arkansas was favored by 28.5 points, and Missouri was leading by 10 in the fourth quarter. I don't think Arkansas is that good, and if Missouri improves, you could almost convince me that they might have a chance to beat Arkansas, but that's later down the line. I want to talk about the game itself, though. I mean, that was a hell of a game. Bobby Petrino was a hell of a coach, even though people seem to hate him because of things he did 20 years ago. He's got that Missouri State program rolling, and they were very exciting to watch today. And Jason Shelley, their quarterback, that kid can play. Honestly, Mizzou should recruit Jason Shelley from Missouri State.
Well, I think we need to point out where Missouri State was 3 years ago before Bobby Petrino. They were a bottom feeder in the FCS world. And then Bobby Petrino came in, not too much going on. Year one, they lost in the first round of the playoffs. Year two, kind of building up. And now year three, coming into this game, no one talks about it because no one pays attention to the FCS polls, but they were ranked 5th among FCS teams. Now, 4 years ago, if you were to tell Missouri State students that they were going to be ranked 5th in the FCS polls, they'd think you were crazy because that just seemed so out of the ordinary for them. They just are not that quality of team. They've been a laughingstock forever. And heck, Bobby Petrino might be the best thing that ever happened to the program, considering the fact that they were rumored to be one of the teams that the Conference USA wanted to bring up to the FBS level. Now, as a Missouri fan, I'm glad that didn't happen because they'd take Missouri recruits away from us. But still, that's a major change that doesn't happen without Bobby Petrino. So the level that he's built this program up in the FCS ranks, and when you look at the talent around him, the defensive coordinator is his son-in-law, and like these the quarterbacks that he's had are all just guys who want to be like Lamar Jackson and saw that he coached Lamar Jackson. Like he doesn't have a lot of talent on this roster, and he's still creating an FCS power. And I feel like maybe they made Arkansas look worse than Arkansas really is, and maybe they looked better than they really are, because I know for a fact this was the game that Bobby Petrino cared about most, and I know he was drilling it in his players' heads.
Dude,
that,
you
hey,
could see the fire in him because he was pissed at those refs because the refs definitely screwed over Missouri State a few times tonight, and he let them hear it. I almost thought he was going to get thrown out of the game.
Oh, yeah, this was Bobby Petrino's game, and really, even though he lost, I don't think he really has anything to be ashamed about. You know, when you look at the plays that lost Missouri State the game, there were a lot of sacks, and that was caused by just Arkansas's D-line completely overpowering the Missouri State offensive line. And it's an SEC school versus a Missouri Valley school. That's to be expected. And I don't think there's anything to be ashamed about in that. And when you looked at his play calling, he put on a clinic. And
that fourth down call, that was insane.
That was so ballsy. Drink would never do that. And if you recall, when we first did the panicked coaching search video after we fired Odom, one of the names I brought up was, screw it, let's go get Bobby Petrino. Right now, that looks like a better option than what we have right now. And speaking of, this is kind of unrelated, but I'm going to throw that in. Willie Fritz, who I think you sold me on in one of our episodes, just led Tulane to a 3-0 start, including a victory over Kansas State. So maybe we should have hired Bobby Petrino or Willie Fritz instead of Drink.
How about this? Bobby Petrino with Willie Fritz as his offensive coordinator.
Dude, if we had Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator now, I think the team is a lot better. Just for the Arkansas game, if Bobby Petrino just drove from Springfield to Columbia just to call the Arkansas game, we would never lose to them.
He should show up in a neck brace and just take the headset from Drink.
Dude.
I think bottom line, Bobby Petrino is a really damn good coach who's going to get the absolute most out of his players. But I will say I'm happy that Mizzou does not have Missouri State's offensive line because holy shit, they were bad.
They're not that much better.
Arkansas, like just every other play they were in the backfield.
Yeah, they had like 8 sacks tonight. Yeah. You know, Bobby Petrino, like you said, he gets the most out of his players, and they move the ball really well in Arkansas's defense.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Odom's Arkansas defense, I might add. Barry Odom just seems to have a problem with Missouri State offenses. I don't know why, but man, they were rolling tonight. And like I told you guys, like I really wish that going into the fourth quarter there, they scored that touchdown instead of kicking a field goal to make it a 14-point game. I honestly think that's where the game changed. And I told you that, Connor, and I know we were like joking about it, but I mean, had they made that a
weren't. You were being extremely annoying saying it was over at halftime.
Yes,
that's what was happening.
Because I'm a pessimist. But you know, I said like, "Yo,
hear that, folks? Hold on. You kicked me off the show for being a pessimist and saying "fuck the fans" when you just admitted.
No, it was just for saying "fuck the fans" because I'm a pessimist too. I can be just as much of a pessimist. I seem like an optimist and a Drink apologist right now, but
because you are.
So, Bobby Petrino,
Drink apologist and a fraud defender.
All right,
that's a topic for tomorrow.
Anyway, you know what? We'll do a podcast if Brady loses tomorrow, if you want.
Okay, moving on.
We'll do that. So Bobby Petrino, I thought he made a mistake not going for a touchdown instead of a field goal, because as soon as he didn't make it a 14-point cushion, that game immediately swung the other way because Arkansas scored 2 touchdowns just like that. And I was like, yeah, this is where, like, Missouri State, they couldn't hold on to the lead anymore, and they eventually gave it up. And it's a shame because they were still up 10 points in the fourth quarter, and they just didn't have enough gas. Arkansas came storming back. And Raheem Sanders, the running back for Arkansas, I hate to say it, but that dude is a monster. And that was a big miss by Drink because I know they recruited him heavily coming out of high school. But damn, I think this game still proves, though, that Arkansas is a fraudulent top 10 team. I mean, that would have been one of the biggest upsets of the last 20 years in college football. Maybe ever. I mean, shoot, last 20 years, they were favored by 28.5 points.
I'll stand by the fact that, anything that's personal, that's why Michael Jordan was so good, to use a basketball example. He took stuff personal. This was personal for Bobby Petrino. So I think anytime that something feels personal, the skill is going to be a little bit skewed.
Yeah, but his players fought hard for him. I mean, they literally gave it everything they had. And I said it to you, Missouri State's defensive line, they were trying so damn hard, but they just could not get any pressure because Arkansas just clearly, had
that
more
Missouri
talent.
State team showed more heart than the University of Missouri has shown in the last 20 years.
I agree. Honestly, I do. I mean, you could tell they were very limited athletically and very limited, when it came to talent. But I mean, they gave Arkansas.
They had clear eyes and full hearts. God damn it! The people's champ.
Yeah, I mean,
I really hope they win the FCS Natty. They deserve.
I do too. It would be great for them, and
Dude,
it would be
we
great.
should start covering them.
It would be great for Show Me Football. I was about to say it would be great for Show Me Football if Missouri State won an FCS national championship.
I remember, I offered to write about them during their spring season after COVID and everything. I watched every game of that season. I haven't kept up with them since, but it was the only football going on, so I watched all the games.
Braden was pissing me off during the game because his broadcast was ahead, and every time Missouri State effed up, he kept saying shit in the group chat. And I'm like, Braden, stop! You ruined my weekend.
Punt, the moment that it happened, I'm just like, oh, that's a really good punt. But he just outkicked his coverage, didn't he? And then he ran it back and went, God damn it.
Yep. And I knew it was over. As I told Connor, it was like watching a Tom Brady game.
Stop.
You just knew what was coming. You knew it was over. You knew what was going to happen. I told you, and I was like, here's what's going to happen.
You said the same shit about the Monday night game between the Seahawks and the Broncos.
Yes, I did. And
you were wrong. We won.
Okay, but this game had the same feel to it. And Missouri State drove down, didn't score, and I knew Arkansas was going to eat up all the clock, and then Missouri State would run out of time. They wouldn't be able to do anything. And that's exactly what happened. And even though Bobby Petrino had a great game, he still blew it in the end. So, you know what? That game pissed me off.
It's fine. They covered the spread.
I don't care. The freaking memes that would have came out.
Rods.
The freaking memes that would have came out of that game if Bobby Petrino had went into Fayetteville with an FCS team and won. I mean, holy cow.
That would have been so fun.
And I would have had a field day with Arkansas Twitter. Speaking of Arkansas Twitter, they kind of looked like 2019 Mizzou Twitter because they were all saying to fire Barry Odom in the replies. I thought that was pretty funny.
I've seen this movie before.
I love Mizzou.
Yeah, he never dropped to his knees and said, I love Arkansas.
Yeah, good old Barry Odom. All right, there's one more game I want to talk about, and then I'll go ahead and wrap this up. USF versus Florida. So Connor and I were both watching that game after Mo State and Bobby Petrino blew it. And so that game was 28-31, right? And USF, after throwing an interception and Florida took the lead, they got the ball back and they got into field goal range. Then there was a bad snap. It would have been like a 36-yard field goal had they just stayed where they were at, but there was a bad snap. They had to go back and recover it, which made it then a 51-yard field goal. But it was still third down, so they still had one more play to run before going for a field goal. And what does the USF coach play, or what play does he call? A run up the freaking middle. That was the best thing he could come up with. And
Andy Reid?
they got maybe 1 or 2 yards, okay? And then they proceeded to trot out their college kicker for a 51-yard field goal. And I told Connor, I'm like, why the hell did they do that? Why was that the play call? You could have gotten a chunk play to make it a more manageable field goal, because you know how college football is. You know, college kickers, they're pretty inconsistent. They tend to not be that great. I was like, a 51-yarder to an NFL player, you know, they're probably going to hit that most of the time. To a college kicker, I mean, that's a 50-50 shot whether that kicker is going to make it. And what do you freaking know? The kicker misses the field goal. And I was so mad at the USF coach, dude, because they could have tied that game up and sent it to overtime, and they probably would have beat Florida. But instead,
moment.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
but
one-up that here in a sec.
Instead, he ran it up the freaking middle on 3rd down. He could have literally done anything else. But instead he ran it up the middle and trusted his kicker to just kick a 51-yard field goal. And I said before they kicked that, I said, I hope he loses just because of that play call. I hope he misses this field goal. And that's exactly what happened. And then he was clapping after they missed the field goal. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that play call just pissed me off. Like, out of all the things that I've seen today in college football, like, that play call pissed me off.
That was the play call that pissed you off? Josh,
yes.
Did you see what happened at the South Alabama UCLA game?
Oh,
Yeah,
no. Okay, yeah, you're right. Yes,
terrible.
I did see that one.
That was so much worse. So for the folks listening at home, I'm going to try and break this down for you based on memory as I look for the tweet. But Chip Kelly, you know him, certainly, and the UCLA Bruins eked past the University of South Alabama 32-31. But at one point late in the game, South Alabama had the ball in UCLA territory in field goal range. And instead of kicking the field goal, which I think it would have been a decently long field goal, I'm trying to find the clip right now, but I seemingly can't.
When we were walking out of Shakespeare's.
Yeah, I'm looking in the group chat for it right now. Yeah, here it is. So 4th and 2, even going for it would be smarter. It's a decently long field goal. It's a 40-yard attempt. So they line up for it, and then before the snap, the punter stands up, motions the kicker out wide, and then they run a normal offensive play with the punter as the quarterback and the kicker as a receiver and the long snapper as the center and all that. And unsurprisingly, it gets blown up on 4th down and they turn the ball over. Why would you call that? That completely defeats the purpose of a fake field goal, because, like, either go for it or line up in field goal formation and fake it from there. The fact that you motion the kicker out as a receiver is just asinine. And, you know,
but they're the Fun Belt. They're in the Fun Belt.
South Alabama upsetting UCLA to be another Fun Belt upset this season would have been great. But they deserve to lose for that dumbass call. Like, what do you expect to happen there? Like, unsurprisingly, it got blown up. Did they have a timeout? I have to check if they had a timeout yeah, they had 2 timeouts. So they could have just called a timeout and gotten out of that stupid ass call. But yeah, if you want to sit there and complain about the USF as the dumbest play call of the day, nah, South Alabama takes the cake.
No,
I don't know
what
what
the call of the day was. App State versus Troy on the Hail Mary. Hell of a play there. Love App State.
App State's having a hell of a year, and I really wish they had beaten North Carolina.
They should have.
That's like, if they had beaten North Carolina, that would have been the craziest string of wins ever for a college football program.
How often do you score 60 points and lose?
Not very
40
often.
points in one quarter.
That's America's team. I don't care what anyone says. Appalachian State is America's team.
They definitely are.
I genuinely don't think that there's a person in the country that can be like, I dislike App State.
No.
Maybe A&M fans, but
Did Mizzou hire the wrong App State coach?
Apparently.
Because that whoever their coach is now has got them fighting hard, because, man, that's a hell of a win that they got today. I don't care if it's against Troy.
I've always liked App State. Glad they're doing well.
They need to go to the Big 12.
That would be a great addition to any Power 5 conference. Hell, I'd welcome them to the SEC.
They'd probably beat us this year.
That's a low bar.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to talk about today?
I don't believe so.
I guess we'll be back on next Saturday to talk about the Auburn game. I hope we're talking about a win.
We might be in Lawrence for College Game Day. You never know.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I need to live stream for a Mizzou pregame and get you guys to hop on live from College Game Day.
Oh, let me throw this out there.
Lance Leipold financed his waterbed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, I don't know if College Game Day is going to be in Lawrence, and I don't know if we're going to go if it is. But in the scenario that we do go, for the 2 people that listen this far, what should my College Game Day sign say? Because as soon as I get the tickets, I'm going to get a Duke shirt because, it's going to be Kansas versus Duke. And obviously, I'm not rooting for the Jayhawks. But, how many times am I going to get the opportunity to go to College Game Day? But anyway, I'm leaning towards my sign saying Lance Leipold finances his waterbed as a Coach Letterman reference. But if any of you guys have better sign ideas, I'd love to hear them.
You probably have to give me a little bit to think about it. I don't know, Braden. Do you have anything?
That's the one that me and Connor talked about in the car on the way back from Como.
You'd probably get you'd probably be able to go viral if you did that one.
At least in the niche circle of Coach Letterman fans.
Yes.
Which at the end of the day,
I don't know, man. Coach Letterman, he's a lot of people know
big.
about him.
I think he's blocked by AOC and Ron DeSantis. He did that within the matter of a couple.
People
days.
don't talk about enough how successful 3-year Letterman Coach Letterman is, because he's been doing the same shtick for years, but it's worked. He's never fallen.
Funny.
Yeah. He's never fallen out of favor with anybody. He keeps going. He keeps churning out bangers, and he's been doing the same joke for the last 5-6 years. That guy, he's a legend.
Yeah, and
it doesn't matter. Like, he keeps getting people.
Yeah. Coach Letterman. Maybe Mizzou needs to think about bringing in him.
He already said that Nebraska's been calling him nonstop.
No means.
Actually, you know what? Wouldn't it be a good idea for like a really low college football program to take a chance on 3-year Letterman just to get butts and seats?
Well, the Tennessee Smokies did by having 3-year Letterman night.
I think, honestly, they're a team out there.
3-year Letterman with Nick Adams as the offensive coordinator.
Dude, I bet you could
That's
get
a hardworking, sneaky, athletic team.
You could get College Game Day to come to a school where
Presbyterian
Letterman is coaching.
That's literally the Presbyterian formula.
Yes. And you could probably get some good NIL money and stuff like that, having 3-year Letterman as your coach.
Waterbed financing office. Pigeon Forge.
All right. Well, we're at over an hour now.
Nobody's listening to this at this point.
I don't know. I think you might be surprised. Honestly, we need to do this more often where we just talk about, like, not just Mizzou, but like the day in college sports for however long. I don't know.
Well, I think our personalities, like when we
it benefits when it's just more than you two.
Well,
Braden, you've added nothing. Let's be honest.
But yeah, like this, I've always said that our personalities are just like way better than trying to sit here and be like, well, today in Mizzou football, this, and this happened. Like when we just like our conversations off the air infinitely better than our conversations on the air because there's no formula and like we're all like charismatic in our own way and it just works.
Yeah, but then if we go for too long, things started to get a little out of control, and you probably hear us talking about inside jokes that people have no idea.
Ozuna.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was. Yeah, so I think that wraps it up for today. I guess you guys know where to find Connor, and Connor's always on this channel. But I don't know, Braden. Do you want to give your Twitter a shout out or something?
Follow me at Show Me Baseball.
There you go. Oh yeah. By the way, People can find this out now. Braden actually ripped off Show Me Baseball from Show Me Football.
No,
if you
shut
didn't
up.
already realize. Yeah, he did. He's a fraud. But yeah, all that being said, make sure you check out showmefootball.com for more content. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. And we will see you all in the next one.